Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics with your proof daily NFT countdown. Lot to talk about today. Stuff from MP Cause, cool drop there. Dookey Dash has an update. Coinbase comes out with an L2. Artblocks update on their marketplace. Let's get right to it. Starting with a quick market overview. ETH volumes again through the roof. I'm starting to call this a vanity metric because I just don't think it matters that much. You're getting so much airdrop farming, so many weird trades that are happening. It's really hard to think about this ETH volume and what it really means. But when we are talking about it, it's all happening on Blur. You know, everyone wants that token. Everyone's doing the farming. Everyone's trying to get their max loyalty, and it's working. If you look at this chart, what's happened with market share, absolutely crazy. OpenSea, below 20% market share in terms of overall ETH volume. I've said I don't think ETH volume is the most important metric to look at right now. What I do think indicates a healthy marketplace are unique wallet growth, royalties and fees being paid. In the data game, when we were looking at data, we'd always say if you paid royalties, much more likely to be a real trade. So that is something we look at. And then 3, our prices going up and down. Let's look at all these things. Unique buyers was down a touch, or we're at 9-month highs for ETH volume, but we're not really at 1-month highs even for unique buyers. We are seeing a little bit of growth. I think we are at the high end of the range, but it's not crazy numbers there. With ETH volume going so high and buyers not going so high, what does that mean? It means every buyer is spending a lot more ETH. Just a couple weeks ago, you can see here, people were spending about 0.6 ETH per buyer. Yesterday, for the first time, that was over 3 ETH per buyer. So really, and I just think this all relates to the airdrop farming that's happening. Royalties have gone up a little bit. Royalties are pretty consistently at about 0.5%. People are just flooring the royalties, but as that ETH volume goes up, royalties do go up. So we did see a little bit of an uptick yesterday there. Now, just a few charts on the airdrop farming. One of the things I want to see is who are the main players who are out there doing the airdrop farming, putting in all these bids and then, kind of walking floors up and then dumping them into new bid walls. Going to go into this in a future show, but the top 3, all 10 of these wallets did more than 10,000 ETH of trades over the past week. Machi Big Brother, who I've talked about before, the single biggest player. Ghost Mint Fund, Franklin, Franklin is board, we all know, is the 3rd biggest player. What most of these guys have in common is that they tend to offset their buys with sales. But Maki Big Brother has a pretty interesting situation going on right now. I looked at how much ETH he has actually accumulated, or how many NFTs he has accumulated, ETH spent. And over just the past couple of days, he has spent around 8,000 ETH on NFTs net. Okay, so he spent more than 10,000 ETH, but when you subtract out the sales, he's actually long 8,000 ETH of NFTs just over the past week, and most of that has accrued over the past couple of days. Now, I think in terms of this is a lot of risk for one airdrop farmer to have. To put in perspective, he only got 1.8 million Blur in season 1. That's $1.8 million, and he's gone long $12 million of NFT risk just over the past couple of days. I said here at the bottom, he might not care. I think, this guy has a lot of money. He does love Bored Apes. If you look at his feed, he's constantly talking about being proud to be an ape and kind of apes in the future. So maybe he wants to accumulate apes, but he's at over 170 apes, really just has continually accumulated. So that's interesting to see. We'll see if he ever does try to sell, where that bid would be then for that. I figured let's do a flip Olympics. I love the flip Olympics. What NFT did the most flips in the past week? This guy, 54 flips. The Weirdo Ghost Gang, Lil Ghost 4150. Congrats to him, or to that NFT. The second one, we're doing 2 events. The second one was the most ETH flipped, was this Azuki. She did only 48 flips versus the last guy who was over 50, but 720 ETH of flips for this NFT in just the past week. Now let's get back to the real stuff. Prices. Prices were basically flat to down. Large cap index was down a little bit. I think the main weakness there was in doodles. Mid cap index was up a touch. You saw a bunch of strength in potatoes and captains, which has had a little bit of a run here. Genesis Creeps, also a nice move. And then weakness again in a kid called Beast. Let's just have a look at this captain's chart. I don't know what the news was, but it does feel, this floor price has gone from 3.7 to 4.5, 4.6. So nice to see that. Some good interest in captains. Now, one bigger theme, and I think that this is something that I'm trying to find the charts to show, but it feels like over the past 3 to 4 days, the meta has been all about the airdrop farming. And as a result, you've just seen less interest in the non-airdrop farmy types of collections. Art is a place where that's really been front and center. You can see Artblock's 4-day volume has been extremely low. This goes up and down, so who knows when it will bounce back, but recently there have been very few Artblock sales. Braindrops was on fire. We talked about it pretty much every day last week, but you can see that meta has calmed down a little bit. Price is still doing pretty well, but the meta's calmed down a touch. I looked at super rare and foundation volume, and this volume has really, gotten a lot lower. This is like, I believe this is 1 week volume or a few day volume. And you can see that we've really come down a fair bit, just not as much one-of-one interest over the past few days. In terms of art projects over the past 24 hours, only 4 did more than 10 ETH of volume. But the main one that we're about to talk about is Metropolis by MP Cause. Let's dig into that a little bit more here. This is a really cool generative art project. I think a bit more than 400 pieces by MP Cause, who I'll show you some of his other work later. He's done art blocks curated projects before, really talented and successful artist. You can see here that, the mint happened around 2 and prices went up a fair bit. And then they kind of came down and leveled off around 2 ETH. Now, if we go to that back of one chart, you can see that there is airdrop farming here. If you look at where those red dots are, there was a pretty big bid wall around 2.09, I believe, and that's where a ton of blur trades happened. Just the details on this mint, and this was a mint done between art blocks and bright moments. There are 423 currently outstanding supply. The median mint price was 2.13 ETH. The current floor is 2.15, so it's been pretty flat. And the top sale of this project was 8.49 ETH. Here are the 3 top sales, one at 8.49, one at 6.5, and one at 6. Just to give a sense of this artist, MP Cause has done some really cool generative artwork. The top 2 here are pieces he's done, one of ones he's sold on Super Rare. And the one on the lower right is Chimera, which is a art blocks curated project he has. Currently has a 2.04 ETH floor, so pretty similar to where this new drop is standing. Second story is Dookey Dash goes into Toad mode. Basically they tweeted here and they had said they're going to reopen the game for Toad mode, whatever that means. We learned a little bit about what that does mean here. Basically the game is the same. So they're having people play Dookey Dash again, but the catch is that there's like a 30 or 45 second stretch where instead of playing the game and trying to dodge obstacles, you have to have the guy collect toads. Who knows? I'll show you a picture what that means. You can decide for yourself. And then the high scores here get you another cool trait for your NFT. They said the last one was about a power source. This one, I believe, is about some interesting trait you get. So here's the picture, the screenshot I got from Bored Ape Gazette. Cool website. Check it out. You can see here, the machine that you're driving sticks his tongue out, has to collect as many of these frogs as possible. So that's the game. The other thing we got, which was kind of cool, was a bit of a glimpse at what these NFTs are going to look like. And who knows, this is just kind of the pre-reveal state, but gives us a bit of a feel of what that pre-reveal state's going to be. My take here, I think the game had its run. It was fun, but I think people kind of got their fill of that. So to do the same thing again, I'm not too sure how awesome that is. But at the same time, I think these NFTs probably had multiple traits, and they wanted to make it so the people who got the grails, got the best ones, were ones who did this skill-based thing, which is play this game well, and that's why they opened it up again. Third story. Artblocks announces more about its own exchange. I say here that it announces its own exchange. There's more details about the exchange that they have. Purple Hat basically says with all the conversation around marketplaces and creator fees, they announced an expanded secondary marketplace functionality at the Artblock site, which has native listings, delistings, and creator royalties are baked in. So let's go over, it was a long thread. Let's go over what I think is most important. One is that you can list and delist your NFTs directly on the Artblock site. 2 is that royalties will be insured. So if they're taking the listings from elsewhere using Reservoir, but if you take a listing from Blur, from OpenSea, and royalties are not being enforced, they will add them in. So if you buy here, you are paying royalties. There's no marketplace fee. Now, 1/3 of the royalty you pay on Artblocks do go to Artblocks, and 2/3 go to the artist, but there's no additional marketplace fee. And it's also built on Seaport. So if you've approved NFTs on OpenSea, you do not have to do it again. Now, why are they doing this? I think that this situation with royalties has really shaken up the art world. And certainly, I think some of the most dramatic impacts have been on Artblocks because Artblocks were not tradable on Blur. So royalties were generally held up pretty well. This chart here looks at the percentage of sales where basically the minimum royalty is. So a little half of 1% or, certainly less than 1% is being paid. Now, remember the royalty for Artblocks is 7.5%. But you can see here that just over the past few days, we've gone to about 70% of trades are paying the minimum royalty. Okay. If you look at what's that impact been on actual royalties collected over the past 3 days, there have only been 9 ETH of royalties collected on Artblocks. That's the lowest in over a year. So we've really seen royalty collections go down substantially, partially because there's less volume, as I showed earlier, but also just because people are opting not to pay. Okay, so my take on this, one is I think that these moves are nice, but I think it will be challenging through opening a new exchange or through developing a new exchange to get people to pay royalties. The reason I say that is if people wanted to pay royalties, they could on OpenSea or Blur. Like the option already is there. So, building a new option for people who want to pay royalties, well, they already do have the option. The second thing, though, and I think this is really important, is one of the frustrating things about Blur and OpenSea right now is as a buyer, if you want to make sure as a buyer that you are paying royalties, you actually don't have that option on Blur and OpenSea. The seller selects if they're paying royalties or not, and the price is the price. The buyer sees this. So I think having this new exchange where I know if I'm someone who wants to buy NFTs and pay royalties, I know that when I use this platform, royalties are being enforced. The artist will get compensated. Like, I think that's a good thing. I think that's going to help buyers who currently, aren't sure whether or not they're paying royalties or not in the first place. I don't know if this is going to change the enforcement level, though. I think when people have that option not to, it just feels more and more like that's what people are opting for. One other chart I threw in here, Braindrops, has been tradable on Blur for a while, but you can still see that ever since this OpenSea move, the average royalty paid per day has gone from in that 5 to 7.5% range to below 2%. So really a lot of kind of the art and stuff that we really hoped wasn't going to get hit did get hit. Fourth and last story is Coinbase. Coinbase has teased, put some kind of teaser tweets out yesterday. Just wanted to talk about them. This was the big teaser tweet that they sent. They also dropped an NFT, and they put this NFT, you can see here at 1,000 copies. It was a 1155, but you can see that it had 1,000 copies of it. Yeah, and they just dropped it. No one had any idea what it was. Okay, and that happened yesterday. People started to get excited. You can see Jack Butcher did a tweet with his a cool design. There was a Chex one done, Rarible, Chainlink, my favorite data place, Flipside, ENS, Animoca brands. Everybody was tweeting about this blue dot that Coinbase dropped. No one really knew what it was. What it turned out, and we see this tweet from Brian Armstrong, is they launched a L2 called Build on Base. Now, Jesse Pollock is a friend of mine who's been at Coinbase for a very long time, and he basically said that they'd considered launching, and he's very heavily involved here, they considered launching an L2 twice before. Both times they decided not to, but this time they thought it was necessary. The goal was to accelerate the development of their on-chain products, bring customers into the crypto economy, and increase investment in core protocol infrastructure. The other thing he said is there are over 100 people within the company who are working on this. They created a base contributor NFT. I looked for it. I couldn't find it. I care about JPEGs. I'm more into the NFT game than I am into the crypto game. So I'm going to talk about what I think is important here for JPEGs, but I couldn't find this base contributor NFT. One thing they did say, though, is that they're doing an open edition free NFT. Anybody can mint it to commemorate this. What you can see here is that already 22,000 people have minted it. There are 3 days more. Might as well go get one. I don't know. I'll probably mint one. But one thing that was interesting is that NFT that they teased yesterday, we still don't really know what it is. They announced it. There were 1,000 of them. There were a bunch of sales. People were like, cool, Coinbase doing something. Let's get involved. Seems interesting. You had some sales at 2, 3, 4, even one at 6 ETH. And I think over the course of the day today, those prices have really, really fallen. You have right now, the floor price is around 2.5, but I think the highest bid is below 1. You've had a bunch of ETH bids get hit at 1 and 1.5 ETH. So it feels like people don't really know what this NFT was. People got excited, and who knows? Not a great outcome. Hopefully we'll hear more from the team soon. Now, normally with this show, I do the most notable sales. That's my favorite section, highlight cool art. There just weren't that many today. I feel like I showed earlier, like the art sales are down a lot. So I'm not going to do that section today. I will be back. I will try to do it every day because it's my favorite section of the show, celebrating the art. But some days you just don't get that much movement. Nothing jumped out at me. If there were cool sales that I did miss, though, please post them below. We'll talk about them in the future. I hope you enjoyed the show, though. I really love doing this show. If you do like it, please like it below. Please subscribe to our channel. Comment, tell us what we can do better. Comment on anything I missed. And we'll be back tomorrow and every weekday with another one.